It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right. Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host this morning. We are in our third segment of the today's episodes and show. In this segment, we're going to cover UN and how they have actually come out on September 3rd, and they are demanding. On September 3rd, yesterday, and they are demanding that Obama nullify stand your ground laws. What? We're going to analyze this. We're going to spend a full half hour on this because it is critically important that you understand the depth of depravity that the UN monsters. They expect, and this is going to kill you. This is a great story. It's in the New American. And I've posted it up on our Facebook page. I've posted it up on our website. You can find it at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. You can also find that on our website at americasvoicenow.org. The story has a lot of links in it, and you need to do your homework and your due diligence and understand where we're headed with this. The United Nations the other day came out and demanded that the Obama administration nullify Florida's popular Stand Your Ground law. Now, for the record, the president can't nullify a darn thing. Nullification, if you understand it and you understand its principles, is only something we the people can do to nullify unconstitutional or extra-constitutional laws imposed upon us by tyrants in Washington, D.C., and your individual state capitals. The president can't nullify anything. He only has authority we give him by delegation. So the problem here is that this increasingly out-of-control global bureaucracy of a bunch of third-world Stone Age tyrants who run their own country like little authoritarian regimes have the unmitigated gall to stand here and tell us that we can't have stand your ground and use weapons in self-defense. It shows a number of things. The first thing it shows us is that they are completely unconscious of our Constitution and the fact that the Constitution doesn't grant us anything. All it does is enumerate and outline those rights which not only we, but even their citizens own. You know why? Because they're not granted to us by a government. They're not granted to us by some little tyrant tin pot dictator. They're granted to us by nature. They're granted to us by God. And they're granted to us by God, by nature's God. You have them just because you can fog a mirror. Their citizens have them too. They're just too stupid and ignorant or apathetic to take them back. You have the right to defend yourself. It is the basic premise of life that you are the smallest minority of one. And with that, you have the right to defend the minority against anything. You also have a right to defend your home, you have a right to defend your family, and you have a right to defend your community. It all spreads from the single stone, the single pebble of the individual. That pebble dropped into the pond creates a ripple effect that incorporates your family first, then your neighborhood, then your citizenry in your community, then your city, then your town, then your state, and ultimately your nation. We have a right to defend ourselves irrespective of what some tin pot dictator wants to do to disarm us and rob us of our basic inherent foundational rights as human beings. These are crimes against humanity. What they are offering you is death. What they demand from you is death. Their own scandal-ridden dictators club has the unmitigated gall to demand, and I mean, this is their word, not ours, not mine. They are demanding that Obama nullify Stand Your Ground. How dare they? How dare they? And here it gets even better. They claim in a press release that the U.S. government is, quote, this is their word, required to obey its mandates. Required to obey the mandates of a bunch of little misinformed, scandal-ridden tyrants? Really? I would like to demand that they get their stuff into a suitcase and give them 48 hours to vacate the premise permanently. In this press release, they are coming out and I'm going to actually draw it up here for you because I want you to hear the real deal. And it's on UN News Center. I'll post this up on Facebook and YouTube and website and YouTube. UN experts urge United States to wrap up the review of the Trayvon Martin case and examine their own laws. Really? Well, we already did wrap up our review. The court found him not guilty. That is our system. If you don't like that, pack your crap and get out. Get on the first available plane, get on the first available train, get in a car. We don't really care. Swim. Get out. A group of United Nations independent experts today called on the government of the United States to finalize the ongoing review of the case involving the death of teenager Trayvon Martin, an African-American teenager shot in 2012 by a neighborhood watchman. Quote, we call upon the U.S. government to examine its laws. We call upon? That could have discriminatory impact on African Americans, and to ensure that such laws are in full compliance with the country's international legal obligations and relevant standards. Let me tell you something. We don't have a legal obligation to you, United Nations. We don't have a legal obligation to anyone but the citizenry, the body of the people of we the people of the United States of America. The only fiduciary responsibility this government has is to us. The Trayvon Martin case has highlighted the importance of the need to review those existing laws and policies that can have a discriminatory effect on the basis of race as African Americans become more vulnerable to such discrimination. By the way, our own federal government, as biased as they are, did an investigation and couldn't find a single issue that they could use to claim a racial charge against Zimmerman. Here's what it says, and here's where it gets ugly. They call us a state, by the way, as if we're a state who's a member of them. States, and they don't mean U.S. states like Missouri, California, New Jersey. They mean states as in state-nation states. States are required to take effective measures to review governmental, national, and local policies and to amend, rescind, or nullify any laws and regulations which have the effect of creating or perpetuating racial discrimination wherever it exists. Well, let me tell you, the UN, You have no business coming into our nation and telling us anything. The truth is, the Ministry of Propaganda in this country is largely responsible for this. That's the truth. These are the people who have been out there pitching and whining and crying and screaming bloody murder. MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, who tried to insert racial bias where none existed. I'm not saying Trayvon Martin's death was not a tragedy. It was. It wasn't racially motivated. That's the long and the short of it. And a jury of his peers determined he was not guilty. That's the end of the argument. The law is, and it's common law, it's law that is handed down to us by a power and a source far greater than anything on earth. Any man-made regulation, policy, law, rule, restriction. The basic law of life is that you have the right to defend yourself. That's it. If you don't like that, don't get yourself into an altercation. Don't approach someone else's house and create a problem on their front yard. Don't assault someone else. And this media system that we have, these ministers of propaganda, who are collectively owned by about 6 or 7 major corporations, each of which is run by an individual or a collective group or a committee who are all members of the Council on Foreign Relations, they are responsible for the misinformation that is fed globally, not just to us, but don't forget that these little tin pot dictators, these little tyrants, these little mini-me tyrants who run all these little nation states, they watch our media too. So they're misled. Then they feel like they've got the authority to come in here and dictate rules to us. When what we ought to do is tar and feather them, literally tar and feather them, and send them packing. The planetary entity of the United Nations has gone even further, purporting to demand obedience from the American people, even on state self-defense laws. This is the article from the New American. And again, they quote this from Mutuma Rutiri, the UN Special Rapporteur on Racism. States are required to take effective measures to review governmental, national, and local policies, and to rescind, amend, or nullify any laws and regulations which have the effect of creating or perpetuating blah, 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 blah. In UN speak, states are national governments, which the UN presumes have unlimited power to defy constitutional restrictions in submission to global bureaucrats. However, in America, as the UN almost certainly knows by now, nullification actually refers to actions by state governments and citizens aimed at stopping unconstitutional usurpation of power by federal and even state authorities. Across the country, dozens of states have nullified lawless federal statutes, and the trend is accelerating quickly. Apparently, the UN has not been following the Zimmerman case very closely either. For one, jurors already ruled that the killing was justified. Secondly, there was not even a single shred of evidence presented by any source that Zimmerman, who was a Hispanic with a long track record of support for blacks, could in any way be thought of as a racist. There was also the fact that defense did not even cite Florida's stand your ground law during the trial, mostly because Zimmerman had no way to flee even if he had wanted to. This is a fairly interesting way to put this. The UN, seemingly living in some sort of parallel universe where facts are irrelevant, boy, is that accurate, suggested that the state's protections for self-defense rights are somehow discrimination against blacks. Quote, "We call upon the U.S. government to examine its laws that could have discriminatory impact on African Americans." Let me tell you something. The simple truth is, statistically, blacks use stand your ground more than whites. Bet you didn't know that. They do. I'm going to tell you something else. The total number of deaths that are attributed, or deaths of blacks, 90% of that is black on black. Only 10% of all deaths of blacks are white on black. So if you're going to sit here and claim discrimination, you've got to have the numbers on your side. And they are definitely not there. You can't sit here and tell me that 90% of all blacks who are killed by other blacks, means that the 10% of the whites who do actually kill a black are discriminatory. Why don't you say that black on black crime is discriminatory? Why don't you say that crime, period, is discriminatory against a weaker or defenseless victim? That's the truth. And you know why people are defenseless? Because they live in cities, they live in places, they live in states where their rights to self-defense have already been stolen from them. The new Harvard study, which just came out less than a couple of weeks ago, has done a comparison against the United States and numerous other countries around the planet. And they have found that those countries that have the strictest gun control have the highest murder rates by firearms. So the old adage that strong gun control prevents crime and murder is a bald-faced lie. The old adage that a well-armed society is a polite society holds absolutely true. People don't commit crime when they don't know who is armed. And law-abiding citizens don't use firearms in an irresponsible way. That's the end of the argument. There are exceptions to every rule, I won't deny that. But for the most part, what you will find, and I don't mean the most part, I mean for the 99.9% part, lawful citizens, people who operate within the boundaries of our society's framework, are not the people that you have to worry about having a firearm. And the argument that you can disarm the vast majority of America so that a small, tiny minority won't get guns is a fallacy, because everybody knows that they get them anyway. And there are way too many of them here in the country for you to claim that there's any way to ever stop that. Period. And you can have all the psychotropic fantasies you want about how we could get rid of every gun in the world, but it'll never happen. Never. They're here to stay. So, start working within a framework of realism and recognize that somewhere between 3 and 500 million guns exist in the United States. The only free republic on the planet. The only nation with anywhere near that kind of an armed force. Our arms are not for hunting. They are not for sport. They are for defense against our own government operating in tyranny, which is clearly and blatantly happening, and for your own preservation and self-protection against thugs and criminals who would do you and your family harm. The Second Amendment is not something that can be nullified as much as President Obama would like to nullify it. He cannot do so. These fools in the UN should know that, and the fact that they don't just makes their declaration all the more absurd. The simple truth is this, folks. UN agreements and international treaties cannot be used to expand federal power beyond that outlined to and given and delegated to the government in the Constitution. And this has been supported and explained and repeated over and over and over and over and over again by constitutional experts. The Constitution cannot be subverted by a treaty or a policy or an agreement or anything else. The federal government does not have the right to waive your right. It's that easy. The absurd myth has been debunked since America's founding. In fact, quote, I say the same as to the opinion of those who consider the grant of the treaty-making power as boundless. If it is, then we have no Constitution. Thomas Jefferson, 1803. Now who do you think has got the power? You see, we own this government. We have allowed our dog to run wild. We have allowed it to become vicious. It has distemper, and it has rabies. And it is up to us, because we're stuck inside the fence with it. It is up to us to put the dog in its place. That's the truth. The dog is the government. But when you can't step out of your own house for fear of your own dog attacking you, it's time to put that dog down. That's where we are. There's a Supreme Court case, 1957, called Reed versus Covert. It ruled that Washington, D.C. could never expand its lawful power just by signing and ratifying an international treaty. In its ruling, the High Court found that, quote, no agreement with a foreign nation can confer power on Congress or on any other branch of government which is free from the restraints of the Constitution. They can't demand that we do anything. The fact that they have demanded makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up like bristles in a brush. We need to remove ourselves from the UN and vacate the building, tell them to go meet somewhere else. Let them meet in Somalia. Let them meet in Brazil. Let them meet over in England. Let them meet over in France. Let them meet over in China. We don't want them. We don't need them. They're not good for us as a nation. Avoid entangling alliances. George Washington. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about this issue of the report that was produced in 2012 by the Pentagon that stated that they clearly knew it was going to take 75,000 boots on the ground to secure Syria's chemical weapons. That's the real end game, folks. They want us in another war.